Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Erectile Dysfunction. I'm Jameson Gahagan from Gahagan Laboratories. I'm here to show you guys a sulcata pen I just recently built and give you guys some tips on how to build your own possibly. I went with a 8x16 foot cage so that they could use it through their adult years. I wouldn't be having to add on to it. It could be a one and done operation. What we did is we went to Home Depot, best friend for a reptile keeper, and picked up 4x4s, pressure treated. Very important using pressure treated wood. Since you're sinking it into the ground, you'll have to replace non-pressure treated very regularly, unfortunately. It's cheaper, but it's why. We got 4x4s and used a post digger, dug them all down about 3.5 feet and sank them, and then we built a frame out of steel siding, sunk that in about 1.5 feet just to they possibly can still dig out, so it's not one of those things that you want to put all your eggs in the basket that this is a secure environment. You should honestly always be looking for escape points and stuff like that. But this is as good as an outdoor pen can get without being a complete box underneath where they can't dig out. For sizing of the pen, I wanted to do something that a pair to 3 sulcatas, African Spur Thigh Tortoises, could grow up and live in. I currently have a pair that's about 5 to 8 years old, about that big. And I wanted something that they could grow up, live in without any additions being added to it. Something that was very similar to their native environment, which is the savanna grasslands of Africa. Not able to match that perfectly here in South Florida, but we're able to get it close to where they will proliferate and do very well. What I did inside the enclosure was use cypress mulch, as well as went with some of the natural, in this region we have very sandy soil, went with some of that and planted a few spineless cactus species for food sources when they're not getting greens. I also did a jumble of some broken pavers right here, use that as a food bowl, so to alleviate any risk from impaction, eating bedding, and then getting gut blockages. Probably one of the better bits of data I've read about recently is a lot of tortoise keepers with a lot of the larger varieties, Aldabras, Galops. They'll suggest throwing in a variable terrain, so not just doing soft cypress or, you know, a lot of people honestly will keep them on. You hear about where tortoises have been kept in pens where it's just concrete underneath of them their whole lives. It'll mess with their leg musculature, so they won't be able to correctly lift their body, move around. That'll lead to them not being able to feed themselves. So I wanted to have something with some variable feels and densities, everything, so that they could burrow a little bit in the middle. They could graze in the grass part right there, which is going to be very gone shortly. These guys have just been put out one day. This has been the coldest week we've had all year in Florida, so I keep them in a 4-foot bin inside with some heat. When I first released the tortoises into this bin to see what they thought of their new enclosure, they grazed around, ate a lot of the grass, burrowed around, stayed away from the sides for the most part. A big thing with sulcatas is if they can see through fencing, through the barrier that's obstructing them, they will ram it until they get through it. And they can even kill themselves ramming it. They'll just continuously, a lot of people will use old fencing, and they'll be able to see through the cracks of the fence, and they'll know that there's a world on the other side of that fence, and just ram it until their faces are bloody, until the fence gives way. Something's gonna give way, be it the tortoise or the fence. Another good piece of data I've read over the years is that a tortoise's beak will grow throughout its whole life, similar to the dentation of rodents, and they need to constantly dull in their beak or else it'll overgrow. So based on the fact that people love their pets and they want their pet to have a nice soft meal, you know, we don't really give tortoises a lot of the dried out foods they'll get in the wild. A lot of these grassland tortoises, especially sulcatas, they eat straw like grass in the wild. They are eating tons of very nutrient poor grass, but they're getting tons of variety. I believe that variety in diet for reptiles is the key to mastering husbandry of any species. And herbivorous reptiles are some of the most particular with their needs. Because there is a lot of different types of vegetation out there and they eat a lot in the wild, you want to mimic that in captivity. Even if your tortoise loves romaine lettuce, give it some collard greens, give it some squash. Only about 20% fruit at the most, but you can give them escalot, you can give them turnip greens, and a lot of the time they will become very picky with foods. Mix it together, they'll eventually eat it. A lot of people will say, oh, my tortoise just likes iceberg lettuce or romaine, it's all I can give it, I'm worried that it'll starve to death. Well, you're just giving the tortoise essentially water, very nutritionally void, just full of H2O. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this could give you some direction or ideas on if you need to build a pen for your animal, how exactly to go about it. Every species is going to have little nuances and variances to them, so this isn't going to be an umbrella cage for doing forest tortoises, for doing Asiatic tortoises, Mediterranean tortoises. There's going to be slight nuances to each species where they're going to benefit a little bit more from certain things. As far as African Spur Thigh tortoises go, I think that this is probably as good as captivity can get for them. And yeah, I hope you guys like this. Give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.